Have you ever wondered how to rewire your mind or what that even means? Well, I'm going to get into that and how to rewire your mind with better thoughts, habits, and emotions. Before I do, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Coach Carissa, and I'm a mental and emotional health coach. And I specialize specifically in fear on the brain and helping you rewire these different thoughts, habits, and emotions that we have that are creating some certain fears or depression or anxiety so you can experience better health and wellness in the future. So let's talk about rewiring the brain. What exactly is that? Well, neuroscientists tell us that the brain is plastic or malleable. Now, in the past, it was thought that a person's identity, what a person's capable of, or how a person thinks were fixed. Now neuroscientists know that most things can be learned and that our brain is in fact malleable, and so are things like our perceived identities, our skills, our actions and behaviors. So rewiring your brain is a lot like it sounds. If you were to look at your current programming of reactions, behaviors, thoughts, and emotions as a computer system, then rewiring your brain is just like putting in a new computer program or a new computer software. Now, granted, our brains are a little different from computers, but the concept is still the same. We can rewire our brains with better thoughts, habits, and emotions once you understand what's going on in your brain and how the brain works. So the brain is an animal built for survival. Now, we'd think that the brain's main role would be to protect our body from safety. But if that were the truth or the reality, then people wouldn't be drinking themselves to death, doing drugs, or smoking. No, what the brain's main role is to protect your perceived identity. If a person believes, for example, that they are an alcoholic or that they have problems, they're more likely to stay in those problems. If a person believes they are bad because of something they've done in the past, they're more likely to continue being bad simply because of this belief. Because this belief has become an identity, and the brain is protecting our identity. And anytime somebody says something that might go against this identity, that person will react very strongly or harshly. Have you ever tried to have a logical conversation with somebody about something that you knew was true, and they reacted completely illogically or out of character? And you're wondering, how is it possible that this person can deny such a logical example, solution, or conclusion? Well, this is exactly what's happening. If that person's belief systems have led to that person's identity in some way, then if acknowledging what you had to say was true would somehow prove to the brain that this identity was false, then the brain would not be able to acknowledge that truth, because in acknowledging that truth, it would have to acknowledge that this identity is false, which would be a threat to its very survival. Are you following me? Does that make sense? So what's happening here is that the brain is protecting this identity through a fear response. By having that person lash out, get triggered. This might be reasons why you might just not feel comfortable with somebody or feel like somebody made you upset or frustrated or angry. And it's probably just because something that they've said have gone against your core identity. Doesn't necessarily mean that what they've said was bad or good, and it might even be right. However, if it's against your core belief systems or identity, your brain won't be open to accepting that yet. This is a fascinating thing with the brain. Once we can start to override that fear response, we can start to fool the brain into not knowing that we're actually rewiring these different belief systems. I call this the backdoor effect. If you were to imagine that your belief systems or your identity is a pillar, or a roof with 4 pillars. And each one of those pillars are made up of belief systems holding up this roof, which is your identity. Now, if you were to, let's say part of one of those belief systems is, I can't do anything good. And you told your brain, I can do anything I want to, your brain's going to imagine that that's like taking a wrecking ball to one of these pillars. Now your belief system, or these pillars, are at threat of being knocked down. Which, if that were to happen, what would that do to the identity? It would completely shatter it. So there is a way to actually trick the brain into not knowing that this is happening, so that we can start to rewire the brain with better thoughts, habits, and emotions. I call this the think, say, do model. Instead of coming at your brain with a completely opposing thought, we can go in through the back door. We can trick the brain by changing behaviors, small behaviors, one by one, little by little. We do this by creating a mantra that is the opposite of the belief system, but not in opposition to the belief system that you might currently have. If your belief system, for example, is I'm bad, you wouldn't want to have I'm a good person as your opposite belief system. Instead, you can say something along the lines of, I have the choice to make good choices. Do you see what this does? Now it doesn't go in opposition to that belief system, but it does let your brain know that it's possible to be a good person based on the choice that we have. Now there's a bunch of different mantras you can choose. What's important is that it's opposite, but not in opposition to the current belief system that you have. Then anytime you notice the old reaction, or you notice the old behavior, or you notice the old thought coming into your mind, say this new mantra 3 times. It's important that this mantra is positive based and doesn't include any words like don't, won't, can't, shan't, as the brain cannot process those. It's also important that you get a really good image in your mind and that this mantra brings you the feelings that you want to have once this belief system becomes a belief system for you. This is a really powerful way that we can start to rewire our brain with a new thought. This will lead to a new reaction or action. In response, you can also do this the opposite way, and you can choose to change your action. This will also start to rewire things. This is called the think, say, do model. When everything you think, say, and do are in line, that belief system will become embedded in your mind, and you'll be able to manifest that in your life. You will create that in your outer world, because all of your actions, all of your thoughts, and all of your belief systems are completely in line with that. You'll also start to replace these pillars with better belief systems about the things you're capable of and the type of person you are. And once all these belief systems start to get replaced in a way that's truly efficient and functional for you, that's when the point we can start to change our identity, or at least shape a new identity that's going to be more powerful for us and the future that we want. So the reality is that we can get out of that past identity. We can step into an identity of any person that we want to be. It starts with changing these belief systems by rewiring your mind, better thoughts, habits, and emotions. Now, if this is something you're currently struggling with, if the emotion is just too powerful or you're not sure how to do that yet, reach out to me for a complimentary session at www.coachcarissa.com. I'll also be including a link in the bottom of this video or in my bio. Thank you so much for watching today's episode, and remember, mindset matters.